Ron won a prize that pays him $200,000 the first year. So when I see the first year, I think of the first term. And half the previous year's amount each year for the rest of his life. Write the first 4 terms of the series to represent the situation. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 terms, right? So my first year is $200,000. And then half of this amount the next year, right? So this is half of the previous years. So this one will be how much, class? 100,000. And then the third year, 50,000, and the fourth year, 25,000. Raise your hand if you got that. The next thing you do is once you get these values, then I need to figure out a ratio or a difference. Can I say it's subtracting 100,000?
No.
No. Remember, to find if it's a geometric and its ratio, you could take the second term and divide it by the first term. That's one way of doing it. 100,000 divided by 200,000. If you put that into your calculator, you'll get a ratio of what? 1/2. Raise your hand if you got a ratio of 1/2. Because I have a ratio, class, that means it's what? Geometric. And it tells you, write a general rule for a geometric sequence. Okay? So this should affirm to you, this is another clue in the problem that tells you you should not be using a common difference. You should be using geometric because it's a ratio. Write a general rule for a geometric sequence that models his prize each year. So I'm going to circle that word, each. Okay? And if you're using your map with all your formulas, I'm looking for, well, they gave me the first term, and I have the ratio, and I can figure out an n value, right? So I'm going to write down that formula. Geometric explicit. Gn equals g1 times r to the n minus 1. So now I'm just going to do some substitutions. Class, what's my g1 value? 200,000. Class, what's my ratio? 1/2. 50,000 divided by 100,000, 1/2. 25,000 divided by 50,000, 1/2. So let's just fill those in. So I get Gn equals 200,000. My ratio, which is 1/2, to the n minus 1. Okay, so for my answer for A, here are the first 4 terms in red. And write a general rule. Here's my general rule. Part C, estimate Ron's total. Let's underline that word. Total prize. So that means the word what? Sum. In the first 10 years. So there's my n value. N equals 10. So again, if I look at my geometric series, now pay attention. This one says the first 10 years. Okay? And you can actually use any of these formulas. Okay? I would use this one because I have the first term. So let me copy that down. Sn equals g1 times r to the n value subtracted by 1 divided by r minus 1. Let's just get you a formula for D. If Ron lives forever, class, what does forever mean? Infinite. So I'm looking for a geometric infinite, sum of a geometric infinite. And I know it's a series because it tells me total. Well, our ratio is it less than 1 or greater than 1? Less than 1, so I have a convergent finite. Convergent finite because my ratio is less than 1. So you should be using this formula. Okay. Go ahead and take some time to complete those problems. Alright, so we finished this problem in, we estimate Ron's total prize in the first 10 years. Total, and we know it's geometric, then I can just substitute in 10 there. And then our G1 value is 200,000. Your ratio is 1/2 to the 10th power. You subtract 1. All of that is 1/2 minus 1. And all you do is then put that into your calculator, or you can get a calculator friendly equation. It's the same thing. 200,000 to 1/2 to the 10th power minus 1 all over negative 1/2. So let me put that in the calculator with you. So I'm going to do 1/2 first. So 1 divided by 2, that gives you 0.5. And then 10th power. So I'm going to press the exponent button. And then I'm going to subtract that by 1. And I'm going to multiply by 200,000. And then I'm going to divide that by 0.5 and a negative 0.5. And we get this value. If you add up the first 10 years of this prize, Ron should receive $399,609.38. Then the last question says if Ron lives forever, that means it's an infinite geometric series. What is the total of his winnings? So to summarize, the ratio is 1/2. And because the ratio is less than 1/2, I have an acronym. I call it I like lights, LED lights, or CFLs. Or this one looks like divergent. So the ratio is less than 1, so our sum is going to be finite. There is an amount we can get. This is called a convergent. If it was greater than 1, then your sum would be infinite. So because it's finite, I'm going to use that formula. So now I just substitute it and solve. G1 is 200,000. 1 minus 1/2. So put that into your calculator. 200,000 divided by 0.5, and that gives you 400,000. So it is approaching a limit. It's not going to go on forever. Eventually you're going to have like pennies and half of pennies and tenths of that. So Ron should expect $400,000 over his lifetime.